One of my big predictions over the next couple decades is I think we're going to just see a lot of bifurcation in humanity. I think that we're going to, people already talk a lot about income gaps and wealth gaps. That's done to death over the centuries. But I think we're going to have increasing mental health gaps, physical health gaps, capability gaps, attention gaps. Because I'm looking at lots of young children being raised right now, and some of them have got great parents who have their heads screwed on and who can manage these things and teach them certain things and show them how to manage it all, even socialize them in a healthy way so that they can look people in the eyes and have conversations like we're having right now. And then you're also going to have millions, hundreds of millions, maybe billions of young children who are just not raised with some or any of that.
Right.
And I don't know if they're going to be able to even do something as simple as what we're doing now. Sit down and have a conversation with someone face to face, look them in the eye, know how to just be socially calibrated and coordinated. I mean, you said at the beginning, just from having some time off, after a lifetime of doing it for decades, even you taking some time off, you found, it's a little bit hard to do this again.
Yeah.
And I'm imagining someone growing up almost never having done that. Maybe they've done it, they know how to type on their thing and they know how to use the tablet or whatever, but they've just have not learned those core skills and they don't have even an attention span. Attention already there's quite a bifurcation going on there, where one thing I love about podcasts is I get the long attention crowd. So to even be able to listen to this conversation, I'm already filtering for people who are capable of listening to long form content. And it's one of the reasons why there's multiple reasons I don't use TikTok, but I don't like the 20-second, 30-second video format, actually. I know that a lot of people are drawn to it and billions of people are watching TikTok and Reels and all these things, but I'm kind of like, man, I don't know if I want to program my audience for this and recruit an audience which is just expecting and anticipating 20, 30-second clips of me saying a thing or you say something on the podcast. I think it's a concern that many, many people are getting wired to that type of content to the point that you then try to give them a book and they're like, this is boring. Or you try to send them a long form podcast and they're like, this is boring. They can't get through it.
So this is coincidentally like the perfect topic to tie together those other topics. So there's now an AI that will take your long form and it will on its own figure out the viral clips from it. So you can have both. There's a lot of stuff that we've had to choose. It's like, well, I can put my resources to do this or this, but AI will let you just do all of it with the same amount of work. It'll just do the hard parts for you. So, it may be that combining the long form and the short form is just automatic, and that's maybe a month away.
Yeah. I mean, I do it already. I do have short form content out there. I'm just worried about people who, it's like people who get completely accustomed to junk food. Yeah. And then they don't even enjoy the taste or the look or the smell of real food because they were just, hey, this is what I eat. I eat junk food all the time. And it rewires your brain and your expectations to think, okay, this is food. And then you give them the real thing and they don't like it. And I think this is just it's a new problem. I think one of the biggest challenges of, I guess, my generation and the generations coming is that we're facing a lot of new problems simultaneously. So I was having a conversation with someone recently just talking about, for example, the rising obesity rates. So I think the US is now up to about 39%, 40% of adults are obese. That's never been the case before. That's totally new in human history. The problem before was always starvation, malnutrition, not enough to go around. And so we have this new problem. And it being a new problem means that it's never been solved for at scale before. And all the incentives are trending in a direction for that 40% to become 45%, 50%, and so on. So even with something that is that simple, let's say, again, I see that bifurcation potentially happening where even in terms of health, 50 years from now, you'll have a percentage of the population that's in reasonable good health in the way that most people have been for the past many decades. and then a majority who are just obese and diabetic and are having mental health issues and so on. I don't want that to be the case, but I just look at the numbers.
I can solve that for you.
Okay.
Would you like me to solve
Please
the
do.
obesity problem
Let's go.
for you?
Let's go.
Yeah. Just as a public service, I thought I'd solve
Please.
this. So I think we tend to think that the reason people are obese is because they eat too much. Yeah. And we're like, but if you look at a video from, like, let's say the early 1900s, every once in a while you'll see an old video that's restored, and 100% of the people are fit.
Yes.
100%, every age. Now, none of them overate. Like, none of them had, could have gotten fat. So here's what I discovered. I recently reduced my diet to only real whole foods that don't have any preparation to them, like a piece of broccoli steamed or a fish. And just stay away from the sauces and the wheats and stuff. And because I had an inflammation problem, I was trying to isolate it. So it turned out for me, getting rid of wheat in my diet, I don't know if it works for everybody, but it got rid of my inflammation. Everything was good. But here's what I discovered. I eat all day long, as much as I want. I lost 10 pounds while I was doing it. And you can't get fat if you don't eat processed foods. So if you're not eating things that somebody put together in a manufacturing plant, you actually can't get fat.
Can I jump in and say you definitely can? Because that's how sumo wrestlers gain weight.
Oh, okay.
Sumo wrestlers don't eat processed food. They just eat huge amounts of good, healthy food, but so many calories that they still gain weight.
I will accept the exception. Exception accepted.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, here's my recommendation. You should try a couple of weeks where you just hold yourself to really boring foods. Just a vegetable, a fruit, a piece of meat of some kind, whatever you eat. And watch what happens. I did this experiment with my audience. I said, just voluntarily, take 2 weeks, just eat clean, see how you feel. And oh my God, a week later, people are saying, I'm completely different.
Oh, yeah.
Like everything is different. My attitude, I lost 2 pounds this week. It is actually that simple. Yeah. And then the most important part and you brought up earlier, the sort of the addiction to the taste, the sugars especially. What I found is that you can drop any addiction to a specific food in 2 months. So I drank up to 12 Diet Cokes a day for, 30 years of my life or more. I mean, just insane amounts. Yeah. So I was addicted, like really, really addicted. And I stopped and it was hard. But what I did was I only stopped one thing. Okay. I never denied myself anything else in any other realm. I'm just not going to do that one thing. So I'd eat, drink more coffee or something. And 2 months later, the most delicious, addictive thing I'd ever put in my mouth, a Diet Coke, I would look at it and I would say, that doesn't even look like a beverage. That looks like a chemical. Yep. Like my mental process in 2 months turned it into garbage. Yes. I just wouldn't even touch it. Haven't had a drink, not a single sip. And then I said, well, that was really no problem at all. So I'll just pick another one. So I used to eat a lot of Snickers candy bars. Sometimes I get up to like 3 of the big ones a day. I was just crazy. And so I just, all right, that's the only thing I can't have. And I'd eat like crazy. I'd always be full. And then I lost that craving. And then, a few months later, I'd say, just to see. And I'd be like, why did I ever like it? So it turns out that these things you think are your food preferences are not. They're actually assigned to you from the outside. If you're left to your own devices, you will lose those preferences. And by the time you're only eating good food, by the time you put a little butter and some, pepper on a piece of broccoli that you steamed, it's delicious. Yeah. Where it used to be boring.